Marcus Chen stepped off the transport ship and stared at the massive space station floating in the darkness. Galactic Academy Station Kepler-7 was bigger than any city he had ever seen on Earth. Silver towers twisted upward like metal trees, and bright lights sparkled across its surface like stars. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at ports that stretched in every direction. He pulled his single bag over his shoulder and walked toward the entrance. The air felt different here, thinner somehow, and the gravity was lighter than Earth's. Each step felt like he might bounce too high. Around him, creatures he had only seen in pictures moved through the corridors. A tall being with blue skin and 4 arms checked his identification card. Its voice sounded like music when it spoke. "Marcus Chen from Earth, welcome to the Academy, human." The creature's large eyes studied him with curiosity. "You are one of 12 humans accepted this year." Marcus nodded politely. He had trained for 2 years just to qualify for the entrance exams. Only 12 humans out of millions who applied had made it. He felt proud but also nervous. Would he be able to keep up with aliens who had been traveling between stars for thousands of years? The corridors were filled with students from every corner of the galaxy. Some walked on legs like humans, others floated in the air, and a few rolled along the floor like living wheels. Their skin came in every color possible: silver, green, purple, and some that seemed to change colors as they moved. Marcus found his dormitory assignment on a wall display. Building 7, Level 12, Room 847. As he rode the transport tube upward, he practiced the alien words he had learned. Basic Galactic was the common language here, though most species could speak several others. His roommate was already in their shared room when Marcus arrived. The being looked like a walking tree made of crystal, with branches that glowed softly in the dim light. When it moved, tiny bells seemed to ring in the air. "You must be the human," his roommate said in perfect Galactic. "I am Zeklon of Arcturus Prime. I have never met a human before." "Nice to meet you," Marcus replied, setting his bag on the empty bed. "I have never met an Arcturian either." Zeklon's crystal branches shimmered, which Marcus guessed was like smiling. "This will be interesting for both of us, then." The next morning, all new students gathered in the Great Hall for orientation. Marcus had never seen so many different types of life in one place. The hall was enormous, with a ceiling that showed the stars outside the station. Thousands of students filled floating seats that adjusted to fit each species' body type. Admiral Vextai entered the hall, and everyone fell silent. She was a Zephyrian, made entirely of living crystal that reflected light in beautiful patterns. Her voice echoed through the hall without needing a microphone. "Welcome, cadets, to the Galactic Academy," she began. "You represent the best and brightest from 47 different worlds. Here, you will learn to work together to protect peace across the galaxy." Marcus listened as the Admiral explained the Academy's rules and traditions. Then she moved to safety protocols. "During your training, you will visit many different worlds," Admiral Vextai continued. "Some of these worlds are dangerous. We classify planets by their threat level to ensure your safety." A huge holographic display appeared above the crowd. It showed a scale from 1 to 10, with pictures of different types of planets. "Class 1 worlds are completely safe," the Admiral explained. "Beautiful garden worlds where any species can live comfortably. Class 5 worlds require basic protective equipment. Class 8 worlds are extremely dangerous and require advanced life support systems." The display showed images of each type of world. Class 8 planets looked terrifying, worlds of ice and fire, with storms that could destroy buildings and gravity so strong it would crush most beings. "Class 10 worlds are considered Deathworlds," Admiral Vextai said, her crystal form dimming slightly. "These planets are so dangerous that no cadet is permitted to visit them under any circumstances. The environments on these worlds can kill most known life forms within minutes." Marcus raised his hand. Around him, he heard nervous sounds from other students. Chittering, whistling, and clicking that he was learning meant anxiety among different species. "Yes, Cadet Chen?" the Admiral asked. "I notice Earth is not listed in any of these categories," Marcus said politely. "Where does my home planet fit on this scale?" The Great Hall became completely silent. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat in the quiet. Many students turned to stare at him with whatever eyes or sensors they had. Admiral Vexitai's crystalline form grew dimmer. "Cadet Chen, certain worlds are so dangerous that they exist beyond our standard classification system. These worlds are forbidden to all cadets regardless of their species' natural abilities." "But I lived on Earth my whole life," Marcus said, confused. "It is not that dangerous," A sound like breaking glass came from several crystal-based species in the audience. Others made whistling noises that sounded like fear. Earth, Admiral Vextai said carefully, is classified as an Omega-class death world. It is quarantined for cadet safety. No Academy student has ever been permitted to visit Earth. Marcus felt confused and a little hurt. But I grew up there. Billions of humans live there. We have cities and schools and farms. Yes, the Admiral said gently, and that is exactly what makes your species so remarkable, Cadet Chen. After the orientation, Marcus walked back to his dormitory feeling strange. Other students stepped aside as he passed, giving him extra space in the corridors. Some stared at him with what looked like fear. Others seemed fascinated, following him at a distance. Zeklon was waiting in their room when Marcus returned. His crystal branches were glowing brighter than before, which Marcus was learning meant excitement. "You are from an Omega-class death world," Zeklon said in amazement. "Do you understand what that means?" "Not really," Marcus admitted, sitting on his bed. "Earth seems normal to me. We have weather and animals and oceans. What makes it so dangerous?" Zeklon's branches clicked together like wind chimes. "Marcus, my world has gentle breezes and soft rain. The strongest storms we experience would barely move a leaf on most planets. Our largest predator is smaller than your hand and eats only plants." "That sounds peaceful," Marcus said. "Most worlds in the galaxy are like mine," Zeklon continued. "We evolved intelligence because we needed to solve problems, not because we needed to survive constant danger. Your world created beings who are both intelligent and built to survive conditions that would kill most of us." Marcus thought about this. He remembered the hurricane that had hit his hometown when he was 12. His family had simply moved to the basement and waited for it to pass. His little sister had even complained that the power was out and she could not watch her shows. "What exactly makes Earth so dangerous?" Marcus asked. Zeklon moved to his computer and pulled up some basic information about Earth that was available to students. "Your atmospheric oxygen levels would cause most species to burst into flames. Your gravity would crush the bones of 70% of known intelligent life. Your weather systems generate electrical discharges powerful enough to destroy buildings." Marcus read the information on the screen with growing amazement. Everything that seemed normal to him was described in terms that made Earth sound like a nightmare world. "It also says here," Zeklon continued, "that your planet is home to predatory life forms that actively hunt intelligent species for food." "Well, yes," Marcus said. "Bears and sharks and things like that. But we have ways to deal with them." Zeklon's entire crystal body flickered rapidly. "Marcus, on most worlds, the largest predators are smaller than your fingers. You are describing creatures that could eat entire families of my people." Marcus began to understand why the other students seemed afraid of him. To them, he was not just a human. He was a survivor from a world so dangerous that it was beyond their classification system. He was someone who had lived his entire life in conditions that would kill them in minutes. That night, as he lay in his bed looking out at the stars, Marcus wondered what else about humans seemed impossible to the rest of the galaxy. Tomorrow, classes would begin and he would start to find out. News about the human who questioned the Death World classification spread through the Academy, faster than Marcus expected. Within days, everyone seemed to know his name. Walking to classes became an interesting experience as other students reacted to him in different ways. The Hydrosians, who looked like walking jellyfish made of water, would literally flow away from him when he entered a room. Their transparent bodies would ripple with fear colors, dark blues and purples that meant danger in their culture. Marcus tried smiling at them once, but they immediately flooded the floor and escaped through a drainage system. The Korthak were the opposite. These warrior species looked like armored bears walking on two legs with thick fur and sharp claws. They seemed fascinated by Marcus and would challenge him to various contests every chance they got. Their leader, a massive female named Grakna, cornered him after combat theory class. "Human," she growled, her voice like rocks grinding together. "Your species survived on an Omega-class world. This means you must be worthy warriors. I challenge you to combat simulation." Marcus did not want to fight anyone, but refusing a Korthak challenge was considered insulting. "Okay," he said, "but let us keep it friendly." Grakna's fur bristled with what Marcus hoped was amusement. "Friendly? Yes, I will try not to break too many of your bones." Other species had different reactions. The Etherians, who were beings of pure energy, seemed curious about his physical durability. The The crystalline horde wanted to study his adaptation mechanisms. The small, furry pip people simply hid whenever he came near. Marcus's classes started the next week. Basic galactic politics was taught by Professor Kelvin, a being that looked like a floating brain in a jar of glowing liquid. The class discussed how different species work together despite their biological differences. The key to galactic peace, Professor Kelvin explained, is understanding that what seems normal to one species may be impossible for another. For example, the thermal dancers live in temperatures that would melt most metals. The ice singers exist in cold that would freeze most life forms instantly. A student raised a tentacle. "Professor, how do humans fit into this understanding?" Professor Kelvin's jar bubbled thoughtfully. "Humans present a unique challenge to our usual frameworks. They appear to be adapted for conditions that most of us would consider uninhabitable, yet they show no signs of being specialized for only extreme environments." Marcus felt uncomfortable being discussed like a specimen, but he was also curious about how others saw his species. Physical training class was where the real differences became obvious. The gymnasium was enormous, with different sections adjusted for various species' needs. There were low-gravity areas for the delicate wisp folk, high-pressure zones for the deep-sea abyssal, and everything in between. Coach Threnody was a mechanoid, a robot-like being with multiple arms and sensors. She could adjust her body to demonstrate techniques for any species. When Marcus entered her class, she scanned him with several different instruments. "Interesting," she buzzed in her electronic voice. "Human physiology shows extreme adaptability markers. We will start with standard exercises and adjust as needed." The standard exercises began with a 1.2 g gravity simulation. Marcus watched as other students struggled with the increased weight. The crystal-based Zeklon could barely move. Several bird-like species could not fly at all. Even the strong Korthak moved slowly and carefully. Marcus felt the extra gravity, but it was not much worse than wearing a heavy backpack. "Coach Threnody," he called out. "Could you increase the gravity a bit more? This feels pretty light." The entire class stopped moving and stared at him. Coach Threnody's sensors whirred as she scanned him again. "Cadet Chen, you are currently experiencing gravity 20% higher than galactic standard. Most species find this challenging." "Oh," Marcus said, feeling embarrassed. "On Earth, this would be normal. Could we try maybe 1.5 g? Coach Threnody increased the gravity. Now, some students could not stand up at all. The wisp folk had to leave the area entirely. Marcus bounced on his toes, testing the feeling. "This is better," he said. "Still feels a bit light, but I can work with it." Grachna, who was struggling but still standing, stared at him with new respect. "Human," she rumbled. "What gravity does your homeworld have?" "About 1.8 g according to galactic measurements," Marcus replied. "Though it varies a bit depending where you are." The class fell silent except for the humming of Coach Threnody's processors working overtime. Environmental adaptation class was even more revealing. Professor Atmospheric was a gas being who existed as a cloud of intelligent vapor. She could change her composition to demonstrate different atmospheric conditions. "Today we will practice breathing in slightly modified atmospheres," she announced, her voice coming from everywhere at once. "We will start with a simple exercise. Air with 18% oxygen instead of the standard 16%. Marcus raised his hand. "Professor, Earth's atmosphere is about 21% oxygen. Would it be possible to practice in higher concentrations instead?" Professor Atmospheric's cloud form swirled, and what Marcus was learning meant surprise among gas beings. "Cadet Chen, 21% oxygen would be lethal to most species in this class. The combustion risk alone would require full protective equipment." "Really?" Marcus looked around at his classmates who were nodding or making their species-equivalent gestures of agreement. "But that is just normal air where I come from." The professor created a small pocket of 21% oxygen in a containment field. "Please observe," she said, then introduced a small spark. The oxygen pocket flared brightly, burning much hotter and faster than normal air. Several students backed away from the demonstration. "Your species breathes what we would consider a fire hazard," Professor Atmospheric explained. "This is another reason Earth is classified as an Omega-class world." That evening, Marcus sat in his room with Zeklon, trying to understand what he was learning about himself and his species. "It is strange," Marcus said. "Everything that seems normal to me is apparently dangerous to everyone else." Zeklon was accessing the Academy's databases. reading what little information about Earth was available to students. Most of it was classified above their access level, but there were basic facts that painted a picture of a terrifying world. "Listen to this," Zeklon said, his crystal branches glowing as he read. "Earth experiences electrical storms that generate billions of volts of electricity. Your people build metal rods on their buildings to safely direct these electrical attacks into the ground." "Lightning rods," Marcus nodded. "Pretty much every building has them." "Marcus," Zeklon said carefully, "on my world, the largest electrical discharge we have ever recorded was barely enough to power a small light. You live with electrical attacks that could destroy our entire cities." Marcus thought about summer thunderstorms on Earth. He had always enjoyed watching lightning from his bedroom window. His grandmother used to make hot chocolate during storms, and they would sit together counting the seconds between lightning and thunder. "What else does it say about Earth?" Marcus asked. Zeklon continued reading. "Your planet has weather systems called hurricanes that generate winds powerful enough to lift buildings into the air. Your people respond to these by boarding up their windows and waiting for them to pass." "Well, yes," Marcus said. "Though if it is a really big hurricane, we evacuate to safer areas." It also mentions creatures called great white sharks that actively hunt intelligent life forms for food. "Sharks do not usually hunt humans," Marcus corrected. "Most shark attacks are cases of mistaken identity. They think we are seals." Zeklon's entire crystal structure flickered rapidly. "Marcus, you are describing predators larger than most intelligent species, with teeth designed for tearing flesh, and you consider it reassuring that they only attack by mistake." Marcus began to see the pattern. Everything about Earth that seemed normal to humans was viewed by the rest of the galaxy as evidence of a nightmarish death world, where only the most dangerous creatures could survive. "Do you think," Marcus asked slowly, "that humans seem dangerous to other species?" Zeklon was quiet for a long moment, his branches dimming as he thought. "Not dangerous exactly," he finally said. "More like impossible. You're intelligent and civilized and kind, but you are also clearly built to survive things that would kill most of us. It is like meeting a friendly volcano that decided to go to school." That night, Marcus lay awake thinking about volcanoes that went to school. Tomorrow would bring more classes, more discoveries about how different he was from everyone else. He wondered if he would ever feel normal here, or if being human meant always being the strange one from the impossible world. Outside his window, the stars looked the same as they did from Earth, but now he knew that somewhere among those lights was a planet that the rest of the galaxy considered too dangerous for anyone to visit. A planet he called home. The alarm started ringing at 600 hours on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks into the semester. Marcus woke up immediately, recognizing the sharp, urgent sound of an emergency alert. Beside him, Zeklon's crystal branches were flashing red in response to the alarm. "All students report to Emergency Assembly Point Beta," announced a voice over the communication system. "This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Marcus and Zeklon quickly dressed and joined the stream of students flowing through the corridors toward the assembly point. Everyone looked confused and worried. Emergency drills happened regularly at the academy, but they were always announced in advance. At the assembly point, Admiral Vextai stood before a crowd of nervous students and faculty. Her crystal form was flickering between different colors rapidly, which Marcus had learned meant high stress among Zephyrians. "Students," the Admiral began, her voice carrying clearly across the crowd, "we have a serious situation. At 0545 hours, a critical system failure occurred in the advanced training complex. 200 students are currently trapped inside Holodeck 7. Worried sounds erupted from the crowd. The holodecks were used for advanced survival training, creating realistic simulations of different planetary environments. They were supposed to be completely safe. The malfunction has disabled all safety protocols, Admiral Vextai continued. The holodeck is currently generating real environmental hazards instead of safe simulations. Rescue teams cannot penetrate the affected area. A Korthak professor raised a clawed hand. What type of environment is the holodeck generating? Admiral Vextai's crystal form dimmed noticeably. The system randomly selected parameters from our database of extreme environments. The current simulation matches atmospheric composition, gravity, and weather patterns of an unnamed Omega-class world. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Omega-class meant conditions that could kill most species in minutes. 200 students were trapped in a holodeck that was creating a real Deathworld environment. "Sir," called out Professor Kelvin, his brain jar bubbling frantically. "What is the estimated survival time for the trapped students?" "Based on the environmental readings," Admiral Vextai replied grimly, "most species would have approximately 15 minutes of survival time. It has now been 12 minutes since the malfunction began." Panic spread through the assembly. Students were calling out names of friends who might be trapped. Faculty members were shouting orders and trying to organize rescue attempts. Marcus stood frozen, thinking about all the students he had met over the past 3 weeks. "The engineering teams are working to override the malfunction," Admiral Vextai announced over the noise. "However, they estimate it will take at least 30 minutes to restore safety protocols." 30 minutes. The trapped students would be dead long before then. Marcus looked around at the chaos surrounding him. Faculty members with environmental suits were being turned away because the suits could not protect against Omega-class conditions. The strongest species in the Academy could not survive what the holodeck was creating. But Marcus knew something that no one else seemed to realize. He pushed through the crowd toward Admiral Vextai. "Sir," he called out, "I need to see the environmental readings from the holodeck." The Admiral looked down at him, her crystal structure flickering with stress. "Cadet Chen, this is not the time for questions." "Please," Marcus insisted. "I need to see the exact atmospheric composition, gravity level, and weather patterns the holodeck is generating." Admiral Vextai hesitated, then gestured to a nearby professor. "Show him the readings." Professor Atmospheric appeared beside them, her gas cloud form swirling with worried colors. She projected the environmental data into the air where Marcus could see it. Gravity, 1.8 G. Atmospheric composition, 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, 1% other gases. Weather, electrical storm activity with discharges up to 100 million volts. Temperature, 23 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 67%. Marcus stared at the readings, then started laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because he suddenly understood something incredible. "Admiral," he said, his voice cutting through the noise around them, "this is not an Omega-class Deathworld simulation." The crowd began to quiet. Turning to listen to him, "Cadet Chen," Admiral Vextai said sternly, "the readings clearly show conditions that would be lethal to most known life forms." "Yes, sir," Marcus replied. "But these are not the conditions of some random Deathworld. These are the exact environmental conditions of Earth." The assembly point fell completely silent. Even the alarm stopped ringing. "The holodeck is not creating a simulation of a Deathworld," Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger. "It is creating a perfect simulation of my home planet. This is not a death trap for me. This is just Tuesday afternoon on Earth." Admiral Vextai's crystal form went completely still. "Are you saying you could survive in those conditions?" "Sir, I could survive and function normally in those conditions. I grew up in those conditions. This is not a rescue mission for me. This is just a walk through weather that reminds me of home." The Admiral stared at him for a long moment. Around them, hundreds of students and faculty members waited in complete silence. "Cadet Chen," she said finally, "are you volunteering to enter the holodeck?" "Yes, sir. I can get the trapped students out." "The conditions in there would kill you," Professor Atmospheric interjected, her gas cloud form swirling anxiously. "No," Marcus said simply. "The conditions in there are the same as the conditions where I learned to ride a bicycle." Admiral Vextai made a decision. "Get him an emergency communicator and a location scanner. Cadet Chen, you will have direct communication with our command center. Follow the scanner to locate groups of students and guide them to the holodeck exit." Marcus was fitted with the equipment quickly. The communicator was a small device that attached to his ear. The scanner looked like a handheld tablet that would show him where the trapped students were located. The entrance to Holodeck 7 had been sealed off by emergency barriers. When the engineering team opened a small access port, Marcus could see flashing lights and hear the sound of thunder inside. "Cadet Chen," Admiral Vextai's voice came through his communicator. "Are you certain about this?" Marcus looked at the readings one more time. 1.8 G gravity, lighter than some places on Earth. 21% oxygen, perfect for humans. Electrical storm. He had played soccer in worse weather. "I am ready, sir." Marcus stepped through the access port into the holodeck. The first thing he noticed was how comfortable everything felt. The gravity was exactly what his body expected. The air smelled fresh and clean, with the sharp scent that came before a thunderstorm. Lightning flashed overhead and thunder rumbled across artificial hills and valleys. Environmental readings confirmed. His communicator crackled. "How are you feeling, Cadet Chen?" "Like I am home," Marcus replied, taking a deep breath of the 21% oxygen atmosphere. The scanner showed groups of students scattered across the holodeck landscape. The closest group was about a kilometer away, past a small forest and across a stream. Marcus started walking at a comfortable pace. As he walked, he could hear Admiral Vextai's voice updating the command center. "Cadet Chen has been inside for 5 minutes and shows no signs of distress. His vital signs are completely normal." Marcus found the first group of students collapsed beside the stream. 3 Etherian energy beings flickered weakly, barely maintaining their forms. 2 Korthak warriors lay unconscious, their thick fur matted with sweat. A small group of pit people had huddled together, breathing heavily. "Found the first group," Marcus reported. "They are alive but unconscious or barely conscious." "Can you carry them to the exit?" Admiral Vextai asked. Marcus looked at the students. Even unconscious, he could lift 2 Korthak warriors easily in the lighter gravity. The Etherians weighed almost nothing, and the pit people were small enough that he could carry several at once. "Yes, sir. No problem." He gathered up the unconscious students and began walking back toward the exit. The scanner showed him the most direct route. Lightning flashed around him, but Marcus had learned long ago not to be afraid of thunderstorms. "Cadet Chen," Admiral Vextai's voice was filled with amazement. "You are carrying 8 students through conditions that our strongest rescue teams cannot even enter. The gravity makes them easier to carry than they would be normally," Marcus replied. "And the weather is not too bad. The lightning is staying pretty high up." As he approached the exit, Marcus could see the emergency team waiting beyond the barriers. Medical personnel were ready with equipment for treating environmental exposure. He carried the first group through the access port to safety, then immediately turned around to go back for more students. "How many more groups are there?" he asked, checking his scanner. 12 more groups scattered across the holodeck, came the reply. "Cadet Chen, you have just accomplished something our finest rescue specialists could not do." Marcus was already walking back into the storm. "Sir, with respect, this is not a rescue mission for me. This is just helping some friends who got caught in bad weather." It took Marcus 2 hours to rescue all the trapped students from the holodeck. By the time he carried the last group to safety, word had spread throughout the entire academy. Students and faculty lined the corridors as he emerged for the final time, carrying 3 unconscious crystalline students and 2 barely conscious hydrosians. The medical bay was filled with students receiving treatment for what Dr. Kelthera called acute environmental shock. 23 different species required medical attention for exposure to conditions that would have killed them in minutes. Some had fractured bones from the gravity. Others had respiratory failure from the oxygen levels. Several had nervous system damage from the electrical activity in the air. Marcus sat in the medical bay's waiting area, filling out incident reports while medical teams worked around him. He felt fine. Actually better than usual, since the holodeck's environment had been exactly what his body was designed for. Dr. Kelthera approached him after treating the last patient. She was a Thessian, tall and graceful with silver skin and large black eyes. Her species was known throughout the galaxy for their medical knowledge. "Cadet Chen," she said, sitting down beside him. "I need to ask you some questions about what happened in there." "Sure," Marcus replied. "Is everyone going to be okay?" "Thanks to you, yes. Everyone will make a full recovery." Dr. Kelthera pulled out a medical scanner and looked at it thoughtfully. "What I do not understand is how you survived 2 hours in those conditions without any protective equipment." Marcus shrugged. "It was not that bad. The gravity was actually lighter than Earth normal and the air was exactly what I am used to." Dr. Kelthera's large eyes studied him carefully. "Cadet Chen, would you be willing to undergo some medical tests? What you accomplished today should have been impossible for any known life form." "I guess so," Marcus said. "What kind of tests?" "Just basic scans to understand your physiology better. With your permission, I would like to study how your species adapted to survive on an Omega-class world." Marcus agreed, and Dr. Kelthera led him to her laboratory. The medical equipment was unlike anything he had seen before. Devices that could scan inside his body without touching him. Machines that analyzed his blood at the molecular level and computers that mapped his entire nervous system. The results amazed Dr. Kelthera. She called in other medical specialists to verify her findings. Soon, Marcus found himself surrounded by doctors from a dozen different species, all staring at readings that apparently defied their understanding of biology. "Impossible," muttered Dr. Yixtel, a small creature that looked like a walking mushroom, bone density 3 times galactic average. "How does he move?" "Look at these muscle fiber readings," added Dr. Splornish, who resembled a giant starfish. "Efficiency ratings that exceed our theoretical maximums." Dr. Kelthera was examining scans of Marcus's cardiovascular system.
"He has redundant heart chambers," she announced to the group.
"If his primary heart fails, secondary systems can maintain circulation indefinitely." "What does that mean?" Marcus asked. "It means your species evolved multiple backup systems for survival," Dr. Kelthera explained. "Most species develop one method of dealing with environmental challenges. Your species appears to have developed solutions for every possible threat." She showed him a comparison chart on her computer. "The average galactic citizen has bone density rated at 1.0 on our standard scale. Yours rates 3.2. Your muscle efficiency is 280% above normal. Your lung capacity is designed for an atmosphere that would cause combustion in most other species." Marcus looked at the numbers, trying to understand what they meant. "So humans are just built differently?" "More than differently," Dr. Kelthera said. "Your species appears to combine the survival traits of apex predators with advanced intelligence. Most evolutionary paths lead to one or the other, never both." Dr. Yixtel was studying brain scans. His neural structure shows advanced problem-solving capabilities, but also enhanced threat assessment systems. He can think strategically while maintaining constant awareness of potential dangers. "Is that why other students seem afraid of me?" Marcus asked. Dr. Kelthera nodded. "Your species sets off instinctive alarm responses in most others. You move like predators. You are built to survive in conditions that would kill us. And you show no signs of being limited by the environmental factors that constrain everyone else." That evening, Admiral Vextai requested a private meeting with Marcus. They met in her office, a room filled with crystals that captured and reflected starlight from the windows. The Admiral's form glowed softly in the light of her own people's artifacts. "Cadet Chen," she began, "today's events have forced the Academy to confront some difficult questions about humanity's place in galactic civilization." Marcus sat across from her, wondering if he had somehow done something wrong by helping the trapped students. "For decades," Admiral Vextai continued, "the Galactic Council has known that Earth was classified as an Omega-class world. What we did not fully understand was what that meant for the beings who evolved there." She activated a holographic display showing Earth from space. To Marcus, it looked beautiful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. But data scrolled beside the image listing atmospheric composition, weather patterns, gravity levels, and geological activity. All of it was marked in red with warnings about lethal conditions. "This is how the galaxy sees your homeworld," Admiral Vextai explained. "A planet of constant deadly storms, crushing gravity, combustible atmosphere, and geological instability that would destroy most civilizations." "It is just Earth," Marcus said quietly. "Humans have lived there for thousands of years." "Exactly," the Admiral replied. "And that is what makes your species unprecedented in galactic history. Other intelligent species evolved on worlds that challenged them intellectually but not physically. They developed technology to overcome environmental limitations." She changed the display to show various alien homeworlds. They looked peaceful, gentle weather, stable geology, atmosphere compositions that would barely sustain human life. "Humans evolved on a world that challenged you both intellectually and physically," Admiral Vextai continued. "You developed technology while retaining all the biological advantages needed to survive in conditions that would eliminate most life forms." Marcus thought about his hometown on Earth. Kids rode bicycles through thunderstorms. People went hiking in mountains where the air was thin and the weather could change from sunshine to snow in minutes. Everyone learned to swim because drowning was a real possibility near any body of water. "What does this mean for me here at the Academy?" Marcus asked. Admiral Vextai's crystal form brightened. "It means the Academy needs to develop entirely new protocols for working with humans. Today, you demonstrated capabilities that our emergency response teams with advanced equipment could not match." She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. The galaxy is vast, Cadet Chen. There are worlds out there that we have never been able to explore because they are too dangerous for our people. There are rescue missions we cannot attempt because the environments would kill our best specialists. Marcus began to understand where this conversation was leading. You are proposing that humans could help explore dangerous worlds. I am proposing that humans could help us understand what is possible, Admiral Vextai replied. Today you walked through conditions that we classified as unsurvivable and carried out a rescue operation that should have been impossible. She returned to her desk and pulled up another file. The Academy is creating a new program, the Extreme Environment Response Corps. It will be designed for exploring and working in conditions that exceed normal safety parameters. You want me to join this program? I want you to help us create this program, Admiral Vextai corrected. You would work with our best scientists and engineers to develop new protocols for extreme environment operations. Marcus thought about all the students he had rescued today. Zeklon had been among them, unconscious from exposure to conditions that Marcus found comfortable. His roommate had nearly died in weather that reminded Marcus of spring afternoons on Earth. Will this help keep other students safe? He asked. It will help us better understand the risks different species face, Admiral Vextai replied. And it will help us be prepared for emergencies like today's incident. Marcus nodded. I would like to help. Admiral Vextai's crystal form glowed brighter. Excellent. We will begin developing the program next week. And Cadet Chen, today you showed the galaxy something important. You showed us that what we consider impossible might simply be what we have not yet understood. As Marcus walked back to his dormitory, he passed groups of students who had been in the holodeck. Many of them stopped to thank him. Others just stared with a mixture of gratitude and amazement. Zeklon was waiting in their room, his crystal branches glowing with health again after his treatment in medical bay. Marcus, his roommate said, I have been thinking about what happened today. What about it? You saved 200 students from conditions that would have killed us all, Zeklon said. But for you, it was not a heroic rescue mission. It was just helping friends who were caught in bad weather. Marcus sat on his bed thinking about that. I guess that is true. Do you understand what that means? Zeklon asked. It means that your normal is our impossible. Your everyday is our emergency. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the graduation platform looking out at the largest academy graduation ceremony in galactic history. Representatives from 47 different worlds had come to witness the first class to include humans in significant numbers. What had started with 12 human cadets had grown into something much larger. The past 6 months had changed everything at the Academy. The Extreme Environment Response Corps had become one of the most popular programs, with students from dozens of species wanting to learn about survival in dangerous conditions. Marcus had helped design training courses that pushed other species to their limits while teaching them to work safely in conditions they had never imagined encountering. Admiral Vextai approached the podium, her crystal form reflecting the lights of hundreds of recording devices. News agencies from across the galaxy were broadcasting the ceremony. Today, she began, we graduate not just another class of cadets, but the first generation of truly galactic citizens. This class has learned to work together across differences that once seemed impossible to bridge. Marcus looked out at his fellow graduates. Zeklon stood with the other Arcturians, his crystal branches glowing with pride. Grakna was with the Korthik delegation, her armor polished to mirror brightness. Even some of the shy Hydrosians had learned to work alongside humans, though they still preferred to keep some distance. 6 months ago, Admiral Vextai continued, this academy faced a crisis that should have resulted in tragedy. Instead, it became a moment of discovery. We learned that what we consider impossible might simply be what we have never encountered before. The Admiral activated a holographic display showing the holodeck incident. The footage showed Marcus walking calmly through lightning storms while carrying unconscious students to safety. It had become one of the most viewed recordings in galactic history. Cadet Marcus Chen, Admiral Vextai announced, demonstrated that courage comes in many forms. Sometimes it means facing danger to protect others. Sometimes it means showing others that what they fear might not be as dangerous as they think. Marcus felt embarrassed by the attention, but he understood why the Admiral was making this point. The holodeck incident had forced the entire galaxy to reconsider their assumptions about what was possible. Today, we establish a new tradition, Admiral Vextai continued. For the first time in Academy history, we present the Deathworlder Service Medal. A hush fell over the crowd. This was not part of the planned ceremony. Marcus had not known about any special medals. This medal recognizes service that goes beyond normal parameters of duty, the Admiral explained. It acknowledges not just individual achievement, but the potential for different species to contribute unique capabilities to galactic civilization. She called Marcus forward to the platform. As he walked up the steps, he could hear sounds from the crowd, clicking, chirping, whistling, and buzzing that meant approval in dozens of different languages. Admiral Vextai held up a medal unlike any other Academy decoration. It was made from materials representing all 47 member worlds, and it seemed to shift colors as it moved. "Cadet Chen," she said as she placed the medal around his neck, "you have shown us that Earth is not just a death world to be feared. It is a world that created people capable of surviving anywhere." The crowd erupted in sounds of approval. Marcus looked out at thousands of beings from across the galaxy, all acknowledging something about humanity that even he was still learning to understand. But the ceremony was not over. "Today also marks another first," Admiral Vextai announced. "For the first time in galactic history, we will broadcast live from an Omega-class world." The holographic display changed to show a communication link being established. Static cleared, and suddenly the image showed a familiar blue and green planet hanging in space. "Citizens of the galaxy," Admiral Vextai said, "I present to you live images from Earth." The display switched to show the surface of Earth. Marcus recognized the landscape immediately. It was New York City. The camera showed millions of humans walking through streets, children playing in parks, people sitting outside cafes enjoying what looked like a perfectly normal day. To Marcus, it looked like home. To the rest of the galaxy, it looked impossible. The broadcast showed humans doing everyday things that would be fatal to most other species. Construction workers laboring in the open air of Earth's combustible atmosphere. Athletes running marathons in gravity that would crush most galactic citizens. Children playing outside during what the weather report called a mild thunderstorm. "These are not specially trained survival experts," Admiral Vextai explained to the stunned audience. "These are ordinary citizens of Earth, living normal lives in conditions that our classification system considers unsurvivable." The broadcast continued, showing humans swimming in oceans that teemed with predators, hiking through mountains where the air pressure would rupture most alien physiology, and farmers working in fields during weather that would require emergency shelters on most other worlds. Marcus watched his species through the eyes of the galaxy, and finally understood what made humans seem so impossible to everyone else. Every human on Earth was unconsciously demonstrating survival capabilities that other species considered superhuman. Admiral Vextai turned to address the graduates directly. "This ceremony marks the beginning of a new era in galactic cooperation. We are establishing the first mixed species expedition to explore planets previously considered too dangerous for normal operations." She gestured to Marcus. "Cadet Chen will lead this expedition as environmental specialist. His role will be to assess and navigate conditions that exceed normal safety parameters." Marcus felt his heart race. "What kind of worlds are we talking about, sir?" "Class 9 and 10 worlds that we have never been able to study properly," Admiral Vextai replied. "Planets with environments that our standard equipment cannot handle. Worlds that might have valuable resources or scientific data, but have been inaccessible due to their extreme conditions." The Admiral activated another display showing a planet that looked like a nightmare. Constant volcanic activity, atmospheric storms that never ended, gravity nearly twice Earth normal, and temperatures that would melt most spacecraft materials. "This is Kepler 438c, she explained. "It contains rare minerals essential for faster-than-light travel. We have never been able to establish a presence there because the environmental conditions exceed our technological capabilities." Marcus studied the readings. Gravity 1.9 g, heavier than Earth but not impossibly so. Temperature averaging 45 degrees Celsius. Hot, but humans had survived in hotter places. Constant electrical storm activity. Actually less than some thunderstorms he had experienced. "When do we leave?" he asked. Admiral Vextai's crystal form glowed brighter. The expedition launches in 3 months. You will have a team of specialists from 12 different species, all volunteers who want to push the boundaries of what we consider possible. As the ceremony concluded, Marcus found himself surrounded by fellow graduates who wanted to join the expedition. Even species that had initially been afraid of him now saw him as their best chance to explore parts of the galaxy that had been unreachable. Zekalon approached him as the crowd began to disperse. "Marcus," his crystal friend said, "I've been accepted for the expedition team." "Really? Are you sure you want to go to a Class 9 world?" Zekalon's branches chimed with determination. "6 months ago, I nearly died in conditions that you found comfortable. If I am going to be a truly galactic citizen, I need to learn to work in environments that challenge me." Marcus smiled. "It will be dangerous." "Everything worthwhile is dangerous," Zekalon replied. "Besides, I will have the best environmental specialist in the galaxy to keep me safe." As they walked away from the graduation platform, Marcus thought about the journey that had brought him here. He had come to the academy expecting to learn about other species and other worlds. Instead, he had learned about himself and his own species. Humans were not just survivors from a death world. They were bridges between the possible and the impossible. They were living proof that what seemed fatal to one species might be normal to another. The expedition to Kepler 438c would be dangerous, challenging, and possibly groundbreaking. It would push the boundaries of galactic exploration and cooperation. It would test the limits of what mixed species teams could accomplish. For Marcus, it would be Tuesday afternoon on a planet that reminded him of home. As he looked up at the stars that night, Marcus smiled. Somewhere out there were worlds waiting to be explored, challenges waiting to be met, and discoveries waiting to be made. And for the first time in galactic history, there were humans ready to go places where others feared to tread. Earth might be a death world to the rest of the galaxy. But to humans, it was just the beginning.